1.26% of Americans say they will never touch certain types of seafood. 56% of people over 45 turn away at the mere smell of it. And there are some dishes that, just mentioning them, can make the whole table sink. But it's not just about taste. There's a story of prejudice, history, and how some marine creatures have been turned into outcasts, regardless of their nutritional value, flavor, or ecological role. From marine trash to intelligent but feared creatures to hunted invaders, there are truths that most Americans have never heard of. And trust me, the number one on this list can not only survive underwater, but can also leave the city and return to the forest, crawl onto land, and continue hunting. Go discover top 5 most hated fish in America. Before getting to the monster at number 1, let's start with the alien of the ocean, a creature that is both mysterious and wise, enough to make many people hesitate before eating, but is a gold mine for the global seafood industry. In the world of seafood, few species are as difficult to approach as octopus and squid. They hide in crevices of rocks, perfectly camouflaged under sand or seaweed, and are always on high alert. To hunt them, fishermen must dive deep, weave through coral reefs, use specialized hooks or handheld fishing rods, and patiently hunt each one. Large-scale fishing nets are almost ineffective because with just a small gap, they disappear as if they never existed. According to a MASH survey, 20.8% of Americans say they would never eat octopus, and the same percentage say they would eat squid. But paradoxically, out at sea, demand from Japan, Korea, and Mediterranean markets keeps prices high. The reason fishermen keep hunting is because each successful trip can bring in a lot of money. Octopus and squid are immediately stored in cold storage after being brought aboard, because just a few hours without refrigeration will cause their commercial value to plummet. In the wild, octopuses are among the most intelligent creatures in the ocean. They can open jars, solve puzzles, and even learn to mimic the behavior of other species, which makes catching them even more challenging. Some studies have also noted that octopuses have a distinct personality, a rare trait among invertebrates, and sometimes this temperament also determines whether they are easy to catch or not. Squid are masters of speed. A giant squid's lunge can reach nearly 25 miles per hour, forcing fishermen to calculate the exact moment to throw their nets to block their path. When threatened, both octopuses and squid can create a smoke screen of black ink, obscuring the vision of divers and helping them hide, causing many dives to return empty-handed. However, the economic value of exporting octopus and squid still makes many countries maintain this profession as a spearhead of the marine economy. From fish markets in Tokyo, Athens, to Casablanca, they are a sought-after source of goods. However, few people expected that the next small fish, which does not possess any special intelligence or strange shape, would be on the most hated list, for one reason only. They appear too much, everywhere, from supermarkets to canned goods and kitchen cabinets. Sardines, or sardines, with small bodies, rich in oil, and characteristic of living in giant schools, are one of the most controversial seafood in the U.S. According to a survey by YouGov, 52% of Americans admit that they do not like or even hate sardines. But paradoxically, at sea, this fish is a mobile gold mine for the global fishing industry. Sardine season usually comes in an annual cycle when giant schools of fish appear, gathering into silver walls that stretch for kilometers under the water. From afar, the sea surface sparkles as millions of fish scales reflect the sunlight. Fishermen wait for the moment when the fish gather, deploy giant seine nets with high capacity, covering the entire school, and then slowly narrowing the circle. In just one pull, dozens of tons of sardines are brought up to the deck, immediately dumped into the refrigerated compartment to preserve freshness. On forums like Reddit, some Americans call sardines sea rats because of their fishy smell and soft texture. But in coastal areas of Peru, Morocco, or the Philippines, sardines are the lifeblood of the local economy. For hundreds of thousands of fishermen, each sardine season is the most important time of the year, when the income from a few weeks of fishing can be enough to feed an entire family for months. Global sardine production reaches millions of tons each year, not only serving the direct consumer market, but also serving as the main raw material for processing industries, producing fish sauce, omega-3 rich fish oil, and animal feed for the aquaculture industry. In Mediterranean countries, sardines are also considered a pillar of the coastal economy. At bustling fishing ports, each ship arrives one by one. The fish boxes are iced on the deck and then transferred directly to factories. The work pace is almost non-stop because just a few hours of delay will reduce the quality of the fish and the selling price can drop sharply. Although in some parts of the world, sardines are not popular on the dining table, in the international trade market, they are still among the largest seafood exports. With the role of feeding hundreds of thousands of fishing families and holding an important position in the global food supply chain, sardines are living proof that hated on the dinner plate does not mean worthless at sea. And when it comes to hated foods, the next one isn't small or weak. It's a giant of the rivers and lakes, associated with American folklore about mudfish that you should stay away from. Some Americans call them sea rats, while others defend them as a cheap source of nutrition for the community. But when it comes to culinary divisiveness, no freshwater fish in America has been as controversial and fierce as the carp, a big guy of the rivers and lakes, with a legend that says it's best to never eat it. In the eyes of many locals, carp are bottom-dwelling, omnivorous, and thrash around when caught, making them synonymous with mud and murky ponds. Not only that, their enormous size, sometimes weighing more than 30 pounds, and powerful swimming ability make catching them a real challenge. To catch carp, fishermen often have to deploy large-scale tactics. During the dry season, they use long sweep nets hundreds of meters long to sweep a large area, or spread nets across river branches to surround the school. Some commercial fishing teams also combine with tugboats to gather the fish to a gathering point, before slowly narrowing the net and bringing them to the hold. Each time like that, they can collect tons of fish, but it is not an easy struggle because the carp often thrash violently, making the water splash white. In Europe and Asia, carp is a traditional dish, appearing on the table from fried carp in Poland, sashimi in Japan, to carp hot pot with pickled bamboo shoots in Vietnam. But in the U.S., the majority of the catch is not destined for domestic dining tables. A familiar sight at fishing ports in the Midwest is boats returning from the Mississippi River or inland lakes, carrying heavy nets. The giant carp, their bodies gleaming with copper, are hoisted onto decks and unloaded by hydraulic cranes, then quickly loaded into refrigerated containers for transport. From there, they travel thousands of miles to seafood markets in China, Vietnam, or Eastern Europe, where their value is much higher. Ironically, despite their disdain in American cuisine, carp are at the heart of a multi-million-dollar commercial fishery that exports thousands of tons to Asian markets. On the other side of the world, they are a delicacy. In America, they remain an outsider on the dinner table, but a gold mine under the water. No need to thrash around violently, no need for razor-sharp teeth. The next fish is still capable of turning a seemingly normal meal into an emergency trip to the hospital. That is the pufferfish, a creature that looks gentle but carries a deadly chemical weapon. Pufferfish, or pufferfish, do not pose any threat at first glance. Round body, big eyes, sometimes considered cute under the lens of divers. But behind that appearance is one of the most terrifying defense mechanisms in the ocean. When threatened, their bodies can swell to many times their original size. Their spines stand up like fences, and most importantly, contain a neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin, strong enough to kill many people with just a few milligrams. This poison has no antidote, and even a small mistake in processing can have disastrous consequences. Therefore, in the U.S., pufferfish are almost absent from menus, except in some special cases prepared by highly skilled and licensed chefs. But to get qualified fish, the fishing journey is not a simple challenge. Fishermen have to go far out to sea, to deep sea areas or areas with strong currents and big waves. Pufferfish often swim alone or in small groups, hiding under coral reefs or reefs, requiring fishermen to be patient, observe carefully, and use manual methods such as hand lines or trawls to avoid damaging the fish. In addition, pufferfish are not a species with a large natural production, and many countries apply strict fishing quotas to protect the population. This makes fishing both difficult and potentially risky. But if the previous fish species are enough to make many Americans frown, then the king of this list is certainly one that even the Conservation Agency has issued an urgent notice. If caught, destroy immediately. The reason? Both creepy and attractive, like a thrilling story at the bottom of rivers and lakes. It is a formidable invader of the freshwater world, a creature that can crawl on land, survive for days without water, and hunt anything that comes into sight. Not a shark, not a crocodile, but a snakehead fish. This monster is native to Asia and Africa. But once it appears anywhere, it quickly becomes a nightmare for ecologists. Snakeheads possess an almost immortal survival ability. In addition to gills, they also have an additional respiratory organ that allows them to breathe air directly, crawl hundreds of meters on land to find new water sources, and reproduce at an incredible rate. Thousands of eggs per season hatching in just a few days. This puts any ecosystem they invade at risk of being taken over in a short time. In states like Maryland, Virginia, or Missouri, snakeheads are not only listed as dangerous invasive species, but also classified as highly threatened. Hunting snakeheads is not for amateurs. They are strong, stubborn, and extremely alert. Many fishermen have to use specialized fishing rods with artificial bait or live bait, lured close to the shore where there is dense water grass, their ideal ambush spot.